Hey everybody, welcome back to Disclosure Team with me, your host, Vinny Adams. The following is a presentation from Francisco Mourão Correa. For the past few years, I've had an intriguing interest in Marian apparitions, and so I finally decided to do a show about it. And Francisco has studied this thoroughly in the past. And so he's agreed to come on and give a presentation about Fatima, which I guess is probably one of the most well-known cases of a Marian apparition. If you enjoy this content, please take a second to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you don't already. If you want to support Disclosure Team, then you can do it in many ways. You can become a member here on YouTube. You can join us over on Patreon, where you get early access to these interviews. And I'm now putting out all interviews in video format on Patreon, as opposed to previously when I was doing audio only. All of these interviews also go out on Spotify roughly about a week later. You can also make a one-off donation via PayPal. The link is in the description. I really appreciate all of the support, and for everyone that's donated, I really, really thank you. So let's get into this presentation. I hope you enjoy it, and here is Francisco Mourão Correa. So, Francisco, welcome to the show. It's been a couple of years since we last spoke. You were here previously on an ICER panel. So how's things been?
Well, thank you for the invitation. It's a pleasure to be here, of course. Things have been quite interesting. You know, the ICER was registered here in Portugal, and we have been since then. It has been a challenge, of course. Many other organizations have popped up throughout the world. So, and it's quite interesting to network with other people, with other organizations. It has been quite interesting since 2017, as you probably know, and you have been also working hard in interviewing new guys, etc. So yeah, we are all working for the same result, right?
We are indeed. We are all working hard. Yes. Now, the reason why I wanted to speak today is that in the last couple of years, at least, and maybe a little bit longer, I've been intrigued by these stories of Marian apparitions. And I've noticed that there are people in the UFO field who kind of associate them with the UFO phenomena. And I know this is something that you've looked into before, hence why I wanted to speak to you. So can you tell me, in your own opinions and thoughts, how you connect this to the phenomena?
Well, the apparitions are sometimes connected with the phenomena because sometimes they involve the presence of objects, of UFOs, UAPs, right? And there's all this strangeness that involves apparition. So it's not only the apparition of an entity, there's lots of other strange things happening, not only to the observers, to the witnesses, but to the surroundings. So, yes, one of the most known, of course, is the Fatima one. And indeed, there's and we will see through the presentation, there's an object, or it recognizes a disc, a dull silvery disc that flies over people's heads. So that's something correlated with UAP, right? And that's it. It's even Jacques Vallée has, and he was the responsible to motivate my colleagues to research the Fatima case through those lenses of ufology. Right? Is there a connection? Is it a religious event, or is it more to the high strangeness and UFOs, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think one thing that's really spurred on my curiosity is, you know, Chris Bledsoe, when he's obviously had multiple experiences with various types of phenomena, but the one in particular where he was visited by kind of the woman in white, the lady, you know, that really kind of made me think, and obviously a lot of other people compared to the Marian apparitions. And so, you know, it does seem to be always close to the UFO subject. So hopefully, you know, you can teach myself and my audience some more about the Fatima case with your presentation.
Well, hopefully, people will feel motivated to research more and maybe be clarified by the information that I will try to provide in the most clear way possible that I can.
Yes, fantastic. Whenever you're ready, if you're happy to share your screen.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Let's see how this works. Presentation. Okay. So, are you seeing this?
Yes, it's on the screen now.
On screen
if you could maximize the presentation, I think. There we go. There we go. Absolutely perfect. So, in your own time, whenever you're ready.
Okay, so a little bit of me. I'm part of CTEC, the Center for Transdisciplinary Studies of Consciousness from the University of Fernando Pessoa. We also have STELLAR, the International Observatory of Anomalous Phenomena, which gathers different academics from different areas of knowledge from different universities here in Portugal. So we have mathematicians, physicists, anthropologists, philosophers, psychiatrists, etc. And ICER was registered here in Portugal, so we network with these organizations and try to work together and maximize the the human resources available. So apparitions. This work from René Laurentin from 1991 had already cataloged more than 2,500 alleged apparitions worldwide. Okay,
wow,
2,500. So lots of apparitions. No? Only 21 are recognized by the Holy See. These are the most important ones. Okay, and you see Fatima in 1917. But again, for more than 2,500 apparitions is a lot. So
yes.
there's a continuous presence of some kind of entity or entities that are they playing with our beliefs? What is this need for so much interactions throughout history, and probably a lot more. So this work is from 91, so probably we had more since then, right? These are some cases that involve also miracles of the sun, so identified in this book. So miracles of the sun is when connected to the event of the apparition, there is some strange movement from what people recognize as being the sun that may be dense or come closer, apparently come closer to the people, so something related to that.
Okay.
In this year, in May, we had the Vatican prepared an event in terms of showing new guidelines for apparitions. Basically, because there have been more, and I think in South America there have been quite some apparitions, and people obviously get excited, and so it's not particularly, how can I say, the Vatican sees it, or the church sees it with some concern. Is the Virgin Mary just popping up everywhere just because, right? So they established some guidelines for what can be recognized as a real apparition. And they gave the example from Fatima from 1917, right? So, but even in the past, because there were many apparitions, even in the 16th century, there were already guidelines in order to recognize apparitions. So there always have to be at least the approval from the local bishop after some research to the facts. There has to be the recognition, at least from one bishop, to give validity to the apparition. So this is nothing new.
Yeah.
During the events of the Vatican in May, there was one reporter that placed a question about the eventual connection between apparitions and UFOs, UAPs, and the cardinal replied that UAPs are not something that the church has some kind of authority to speak about, so they didn't want to go there, and they left it to other people that may be more responsible or more expertise to talk about UAPs. They did not want to make that connection.
Just before you carry on there, sorry, I just wanted to ask, a lot of people speculate that the Vatican knows a lot more than it's willing to say when it comes to UFOs. What are your thoughts on that? Do you believe they know more?
Well, they have more information, right? And even Diane Pasuka and other colleagues from the past have made some work in terms of digging about reports that in the past were more interpreted as religious interventions or divine interventions, and their characteristics nowadays can be read as ufological events, right? And
sure.
Even for instance, there are a couple of saints in the past that saw balls of light or orbs. They could levitate. They had missing time. They had. They spoke about certain events that happened to them that made them saints by the eyes of the church. But nowadays, and even there's one specific Saint Teresa of Acre, I think in Spain, which has there's a guy in that was studied by John Mack, and he reported the exact same. He went to the same experiences that were reported 500 years ago by this nun, and it fits more or less. It's like parallel. So, and nowadays on the 20th century, it's interpreted as like ufological or alien hypothesis intervention, right? And in the past, it was more assumed, interpreted as a religious or divine intervention. So
sure.
In that sense, yes, the Vatican may have lots of reports that we can go and dig in and research, and make parallels with all these more recent common reports that can identify a ufological or high strangeness. Okay.
Yeah.
So apparitions in until the 18th century, just in Portugal, about 50 apparitions. Okay, just in Portugal. This was a work made by my colleague and friend Joaquim Fernandes. He was head of CITEC. He's helped me also register ICER. He's an historian, and he identified at least more than 50 apparitions until the 18th century just in Portugal. Okay, and
wow.
We have, because all of this and the importance of the Holy Mary, this continuous presence, our king, there was a certain period of time during our history where we lost our independence to Spain. And when we regained that independence in the 1940s, more or less 1942, 40, our king devoted the crown of Portugal to the Virgin Mary, and stated that from then on there could be no kings or queens crowned because it belonged to the Virgin Mary. So that's the importance that they recognized, because they felt that she had some kind of particular influence in the destinies of Portugal. Okay. There's an interesting, I spoke of that in other presentations I did. In 1312, when Constantine sees that cross in the sky, see it in the ancient aliens as well, it was a mark in terms of his conversion to Christianism and implementing Christianism in all empire, right? The Roman Empire. If that didn't happen, probably all the universal history could be different, right? But 1312, it's the battle of the bridge. Well, I don't know. I don't remember now. But still, there's a correlation. In 1139, there's a big battle here in Portugal where our king had a smaller army against 5 or 6 armies of Moors, and he saw also a cross in the sky. He felt motivated and motivated his army as well, and he won the battle. That led to our independence. Okay, so I think there's this high strangeness that motivates people. Again, connected, they made the relation to a divine sign in the sky that we are protected by the divine, right? But sure. Maybe, right, it may be other things, right? So just in Portugal, we have this from 19th, 20th century, these about 16 other apparitions, predominantly with girls between the ages of 7 and 12, and these are more of the reported effects, right? Dreams, inner voices, ecstasy, precognition, levitation, clairvoyance, some physical effects like total or partial paralysis, muscle weakness, loss of senses, catalepsy, hearing tinnitus or the buzzing sound, teleportation, loss of sense of space-time, environmental changes, specifically meteorological, like clouds, strange winds, the feeling of heat, temperature changes, effects on animals like animal paralysis. All the things are reported in most of these apparitions. So, 13th of May, 1917, 3 children, aged 9, Lucia, 10, Francisco Marto, 9, Jacinta, 7. So Francisco and Jacinta were brothers, and Lucia was their cousin. Okay? Right. And so they were in a very rural area. Imagine that in 1917, in this specific area, there were no roads, there was no radio, there was no TV, of course. Sometimes newspaper would come by, but it's a very rural, very isolated place. And these children living in a very religious community, devoted again to the Virgin Mary, the protection of Portugal. They were guarding their family sheep, and more or less at noon, they witness this apparition, what they call the Virgin Mary, that asked them to return every 13th of the month to pray the rosary. So this is the most important detail that may differentiate to other apparitions. This is a process during 6 months, from May to October. There are 6 apparitions. Okay. And so that this lady, this bright lady that they interpret as the Virgin Mary, asked them to return every 13th of the May, every 13th of the month, and that on the last time she would tell them who she was and what she wanted. Okay.
Can I just ask quickly, when she appeared to them, has it been reported that did she come down from the sky, or did she just appear kind of in front of them?
We'll get there.
All right. Okay.
Okay. So this is what is more common, people. So and people again relate the Fatima case to this specific situation on October 13th. Okay. On October 13th, about 50,000, 70,000. But between 50,000 and 70,000 people were there expecting to see a miracle, and they interpret as it was one reporter, one specific reporter from one newspaper in Lisbon that coined the term the dancing sun. So they felt they had I don't know, not the illusion, but they saw something resembled to the sun that danced over their heads. Okay, and some healings were reported. So these photographs are from that specific moment. Okay?
Wow.
So years later, when Lucia wrote her memories, she reported that the Virgin Mary had told them those 3 secrets. Yeah? 2 of them were revealed in 41. There was a third one written in 44 by the request of Bishop of Leiria and revealed in 2000. So we had the vision of hell, the devotion of the heart of the Virgin Mary, the conversion of Russia, or the fall of communism, and the attempted murder of John Paul II. So Jacques Vallée was one of the first to talk about or write about the possibility of the apparitions in Fatima could have been a little bit more than a religious event, that there was some kind of strange, high strangeness involved that deserved to be studied, researched, and probably there could be some connection with UFOs or ufology. So I believe he talked, or they exchanged, my colleague Joaquim Fernandes here on the left had a brief exchange with Jacques Vallée, and they felt motivated to do this research. To the right is Fina de Armada, an historian also, and she helped Joaquim with the research. So this woman was a feminist, an activist as well, and she basically she had the idea of writing or applying for a PhD thesis about the role of women during the First Republic. So Portugal was founded in 1143, and we were a monarchy until 1910, okay, when the king was assassinated by a liberal movement, a liberal revolution. And so there were some women that indeed played a role in those first years of the Republic. One of them was a lady that collected money to build the first chapel in Fatima. So Fatima became a beacon to the world in terms of pilgrimage, and she built the first, or helped build the first chapel. So with that in mind, she asked the sanctuary in Fatima to get access to the files to research that specific woman, to try to find more about that specific woman and other women that may have been involved with that. And it was with that openness that she had the opportunity, or had the luck, to find some documents inside the sanctuary. Although she had to respect several rules, she could not record anything. She had always someone close to her checking what she was doing, but nevertheless, she found one specific set of documents related to strange phenomena, and so the research, the study started there. So these are three books that were translated into English, but they together wrote several other books and articles that did not make outside of Portugal.
Okay. Yeah.
And what she found also was that there was like a pre-announcement on the spring of 1916, 1 year prior. The children reported that they had seen what they interpret as an angel, some kind of entity that they could not identify as being male or female, and that Francisco also said that he was puzzled how the sheep were paralyzed with the presence of this entity. They called him an angel, but it had, and also that when the angel came, they felt afterwards exhausted, and they could not understand how time went so fast, in the sense that suddenly they were conscious that it was almost night. So the time flew, and they felt exhausted after this encounter. So this is 1916.
Wow.
February 10th, 1917, a group of mediums in Lisbon that usually gathered regularly, they channeled the message, and they wrote, like automatic writing from right to left, only through a mirror you could read the message, and they made minutes of that session, and in that that message said that something extraordinary would happen and had some kind of impact in all humanity, and it was signed Stella Matutina, and Stella Matutina translated is morning star.
Okay. Interesting.
So this was on February 7th. On March 10th, they published this message, or part of the message, on the newspaper in Lisbon. They sent to several newspapers, and it was like front page, and with these numbers 135917. 13th of May, 1917, right? But they interpret like it may have had something in relation to the First World War. There were Portuguese soldiers there. All families were worried about their well-being, and so they interpret this something extraordinary will happen with impacting whole humanity. It has to be with the war. So the war will end maybe on the 13th of May.
Right.
Interesting also, May 11th. So March 10th, the first apparition is on May 13th, right? There are a couple of months prior to the event.
Sure.
May 11th, another announcement was published, this time in Porto. There was this also another psychic that he paid from his own pocket to publish in 3 different newspapers. Again, that something had been transmitted by the spirits that would have impact in whole humanity. Okay, so we have 2 different situations that, I don't know, make this build up again, but this was interpreted again in relation to World War I.
Okay, I see.
And the 2 biggest cities in Portugal, Lisbon, the capital, and Porto, then it would be very difficult for this to reach the area of Fatima, and specifically those children and those people in that area, they were uneducated, so they didn't know how to write or read. Okay. May 10th also, up north of Portugal, this kid, 10 years old, Severino Alves, heard some kind of thunder and saw a beautiful lady who asked him to pray and to sing to the star of the sky. Maybe the morning star also. This
Very
is
similar.
May 10th. Very curious. Kid and the entity says, pray and sing to the star of heaven. Which, I mean, Christians, Catholics don't pray to stars, right? So
sure. Curious. Wow.
Right? Oh, and it was published. The situation was also reported in the local newspaper that you see here on the left.
Right. Yeah.
So again, May 13th, Lucia Francisco regarding the ship, they heard some thunders and saw this entity, what they called a beautiful lady, because it was it looked feminine, but rather small, like 1.10 meters, and she was on top of a bush. She would talk without moving its lips, telepathy maybe, right? And there was a buzzing sound always present there when she spoke specifically. So this lady, this entity, asked him to come every 13th of the day for every 13th of the month. She would then tell, and at the end she would tell them who she was, what the purpose of her visit, and she also asked him to learn to read, maybe the basis of knowledge. We don't know. Only Lucia and Jacinto were able to hear the lady. Inside their heads, Jacinto could only see her.
Wow.
This is a picture of the first chapel that was built there. It's still there. Okay. Local priest Manuel Marques was the first to interview the children. Of course, when the children went home and started talking about, they saw this lady that came from the sky. They didn't say it was the Virgin Mary, okay? But their relatives initially said, this is nonsense, this is what you're talking about. They didn't believe. Only throughout time, they started saying, maybe if it comes from the sky, maybe it's the Virgin Mary. So, but initially there was doubt. They said they were lying, they were inventing. Okay, so Manuel Marques started interviewing the children. He made written reports. This is one copy of one of the reports. Okay, and after the Miracle of the Sun in October, he just sent the inquiry to the bishop and left the village because he didn't believe that it had anything to do with the Virgin Mary. Okay? And in his reports, when he interviewed the kids, Lucia specifically, she described this entity on the right, like this.
I see. Yeah.
This was sketched. This was drawn by the husband of Fina de Armada, the researcher.
Okay.
He was a professor at the Fine Arts from the University of Porto, and he drew this according to the description of Lucia. Okay? So it doesn't resemble any Christian figure, right? It's sure. Strange, holding a ball of light, right? And it's just strange.
Very.
So Francisco also again referred, he was perplexed, surprised to see how the ship completely froze when these entities showed up. and again, felt tired, time flew, again, similar to what had happened one year prior. Okay? They also referred that the lady would come down through what they call a stair of light, and would go up in the same way. And Jacinta even said in one of the times that when the lady reached the clouds that transported the lady, there were like some doors that would close, almost hitting the doors, the feet of the entity. Right. Strange. Other witnesses that didn't see, so only the children could see the entity, no one else could see, but they were able to witness strange phenomena. They heard the buzzing sound, they heard the thunders, they saw luminous objects, they saw the cone, and they referred, some of the witnesses, how the bush felt damaged after the apparition. So it seemed like something was indeed there.
Right, something physical.
Yeah. So these are the apparitions: 13th of May, 13th of June, 13th of July. In August, the children were like arrested by the local bishop because when the word started to spread, people started coming to the place, right? And so the church felt a little bit uncomfortable. What is happening here? What is this devotion? And they thought clearly that the children were lying. But again, in June, there were already some dozens of people. In July, hundreds of people. So in August, the church intervened. They took the children away for interrogation, etc. On the 19th, the children were again with the sheep of the family in the mountain, and the apparition took place. Okay? Right. But on the 13th, although the kids were not there were people there expecting. They didn't know that the children would not be there. They didn't know that the children had been arrested, so they were there trying to see something, to witness something, and they indeed witnessed, and they referred that to the locals. They heard the buzzing sound, they heard the thunders, they saw strange clouds moving. So something was there again. Okay. 13th of September, lots and lots of people, and culminating on the 13th of October. And so, there was a buildup again. August, September, and October, witnesses reporting strange objects, luminous oval-shaped objects that flew smoothly but fast, luminous globes spinning in the clouds, presenting several colors, flying hats. So people were just describing what they were seeing. What is a flying hat, right? UFO.
It sounds just like a UFO, absolutely.
Exactly.
Wow.
Flying crosses, again, the crosses, and takes back to Constantine, our first king, saw crosses in the sky as well.
Yeah.
Things that I say they could not explain or understand. And on each apparition day, the sign that most noticed by the witness was always like the decrease in sunlight. It felt like they were turning off the lights. It was getting dimmer. Once the things were happening, it seemed like dimmer. So again, high strangeness, like a theater, maybe, like what Jacques Vallée says. Something is being prepared for those witnesses. And it's confusing. People don't understand what they're seeing. Right? Someone or something is playing with those people. With us in general. We are still debating that, right? 100 years after. So October 13th, more than 50,000 people attending, expecting to witness what they believe could be the revelation or a miracle. It had been raining all night and morning. People were completely wet. And at noon, according to one reporter of the newspaper O Século, the sand danced above people's heads. Some testimonies, people There were obviously uneducated people, probably the majority, but there were also high educated people there, professors, lawyers, medical doctors. In this case, José Pereira James was a medical doctor, and he described seeing a strange sun flat with a well-defined boundary that looked like a dull silver disc. And this José Proença de Almeida Garret, a lawyer and professor at University of Coimbra, said it started turning sharply on itself. Its edges became scarlet and slid like a whirlwind, spreading flames of fire, gushing cascades of green lights, red, blue, and violet in various shades, which were reflected in the soil, trees, bushes, and the clothes. So these are drawings from our colleague José Sotomayor. He made several drawings based on the descriptions, right? And again, and also by witness reports from different areas, localities on a 20-kilometer range. People saw something clearly coming from behind the clouds. It could not have been the sun, right? Just the consequences of our planet and the entire solar system, right? Comparing the sun to Earth is ridiculous. So it could not have been the sun. Right?
And what's really crazy there is, he actually says it looked like a dull silver disc.
Exactly.
The next guy saying it started turning sharply on itself and multicolored lights. I mean, these are classic traits of a UFO sighting.
Exactly. And again, if it was the sun, everyone in the planet would have seen it, right? Not just those local people, right? So that doesn't make sense. And the sizes, the dimension, everything could not have been. So something flew over there. It had been raining. Several people reported that their clothes dried, the soil below them as well. Very few cars that were there. There were some reports of mechanical failures, windshields that suddenly shattered, sudden combustion of gasoline, hoods of cars ripped out. So end of the world, right? And healings and skin burns were also reported. Many witnesses saying it was a marvelous but very frightening event. People heard the buzzing sound and saw rain of small flowers, angel hair. These had been also reported in the months prior, before October, that there were this raining of small flowers, probably angel hair. This is according to the research that was done by a multidisciplinary team led by my colleague Joaquim Fernandes. This is the reconstruction. So they not only had access to the files at the sanctuary, but also to the National Archives. And so they were able to pinpoint several witnesses and identify and then interview those people, that some of them were still alive. And so they were able to build this, picking up a map of the place and placing the reports of the flyby of the object. So the object came from behind the clouds and made a flyby. So this is the path of the flyby. And according to the places where the witnesses were, they reported, again, heat, dryness of clothes, and other physiological situations. Right?
Sure. Wow, that's incredible.
This on top left is the most known photograph that was shared, I think on Time magazine in 1953, I guess, but it was identified as not from Fatima, but from Torres Novas, which is a few kilometers west to Fatima. And this photo is from 1925, not from 1917. Okay, this is my colleague José Machado, part of our team, part of Stellar and CTEC. He also was doing a research in terms of all documents in the sanctuary and etc. And he was lucky enough to find a suitcase, sort of a suitcase, that held several glass plates. Remember that back in 1917, taking photographs was completely different from it is today, right?
Of course.
Nowadays,
yes.
we just press. We have instant access to everything and just press. Back then, it was a big machine, heavy, that you needed to prepare and have all the conditions and have an angle and light. So there were a couple of almost minutes. And so during minutes, even seconds, lots of things can happen, right, before you can take a picture. So this, my colleague identified Joshua Benuliel, who was a Jewish photographer, highly respected, highly professional. He was the photographer of the royal family, all the events he covered. So he was there as well. He took a set of 13, 14 photos, and those photos indeed shows strange things. Okay, this is one example, photo D110, where you see on the left a sort of a mark. It's like almost a burning, but you can see also that there's some light rays, right? And so you see people, this would supposedly, it was noon. So at noon, the sun is like this on the zenith, right? Not on that degree. So, and people are looking at that way. And so something was happening in that direction. And there are other photographs that also show, although the plates are obviously very degraded, you can say degraded.
Yeah, just due to time,
Yeah, but there's something, it's not like the final proof, but it shows things that were not supposed to be there. Okay?
Yeah.
This is Fatima nowadays, of course. A big, it has, that place has something energetical, I don't know. It makes a difference. When you get there, you feel it.
Right.
And so this, you can see now in 2017, for the 100th anniversary, 1 million people attended. So you see the impact that has in people's lives and beliefs, etc. Wow. It's impactful, right? Interestingly, you see this guy, Boguslav Lipinski. He researched the apparitions of 1981 in Yugoslavia, and he's a Polish biochemist, researcher at a research laboratory in Cambridge and at Harvard Medical School. He was, and he made some research based on this apparition. He covered other apparitions and tried to understand the impacts with the devotion that people practice in these places. And so he tried to compare, like in big events with big crowds, like sports events, tried to measure this so-called, how can I say, he used an equipment to measure radiation in the perimeter, and he was able. He published this work of him. He was able to understand that in places where, like local sports events, etc., there's some kind of energy that can be detected, but not that important. But when people are gathered with the same intention, praying, then it's out of the reading. The readings go up. Like there's a physical reading that can be measured, that can be compared to neutral situations, right? And so here it is. the normal measurement in the rock community goes from 0 to 1 million. Normal readings range between 0 and 15, and he measured up to 90, I guess, I think, and in both in areas like Yugoslavia and other places where there's some kind of a devotion. So one of the things, and he was not the first one to bring this hypothesis that maybe something, some entity or whatever, feeds from this energy, and so it needs these places where people gather and go and pray to feed from that energy. Now, this is just, of course, an hypothesis, a radical hypothesis, but it's interesting.
Very.
Salvador Freixedo is a Spanish priest, a researcher as well for high strangeness. He also was of the same opinion. He died 95 years old, I guess, a few years ago. But he was also convinced of that hypothesis. This is our last gathering with Fatima before she died with cancer. This was in 2014. She died. We had been recording for a History Channel series. One of the episodes was dedicated to Fatima, and someone from the Iberian directorship of the History Channel canceled the show. The show would air prime time on a Sunday, and on Friday I got a message that it would not go. It could not go into TV, and Fina was devastated. She suffered a lot in terms of her academic path. She was not able to get her PhD. Her scholarship was cancelled, and she suffered a lot when she published the findings of her research. And that's it. That's more or less very quickly what
that's incredible.
I can say about. I mean, it's too complex to summarize, of course. This could go on and on. And again, what makes difference in Fatima is the time, 6 months period. It's not just a day, just once. At the moment. Yeah. It's 6 months, right?
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I mean, so many of the things, and I just made a few notes that it's funny that, the children could see the lady, but then the locals could only see the light or the clouds. And you had
the hypothesis is maybe this visit from the so-called angel 1 year prior, and there's a reference that we don't know if it's true or not. It was made by the priest, but that the angel gave something to eat to Lucia and something to drink to the other two. Was this some kind of preparation?
Could be. That's fascinating.
We don't know. But again, we don't have, it's just speculation. We don't have
of course, and I think that's okay. It's healthy, and I'm obviously looking at this through the ufological lens and seeing that there were physical effects, radiation burns and things, and medical issues. This buzzing sound that you mentioned is often associated in a vast majority of UFO cases.
Yes, and there's a study made in the 60s about the how can I say, the how we can the frequency, the buzzing sound was registered. The buzzing in terms of laboratory, they found that it's between 300 hertz, 400 hertz, and that's something that maybe microwaves can do that.
Right.
And so you can project sounds, voices when stimulating this part of the head.
I see. Right. Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, just moving out into some of the other apparition cases, are you aware of any cases where the witnesses of the Mother Mary or the apparition were given messages of, like warnings of about the Earth or any kind of future revelations?
Not warnings, but the common message or the common request is to pray.
Right.
Again, and you can then make the connection to this guy from this Polish researcher. Why pray?
Yeah.
Well, it's also something. If you try to communicate with someone that is uneducated, maybe you can try to find ways for people not to get scared and something that they relate to. So they were used to pray every day.
Sure.
The rosary. So the entity asked them, well, pray. Right?
It makes them feel comfortable.
It makes them feel comfortable.
Wow. That's so interesting.
And the Fatima, regarding the secrets.
Right.
A few of my colleagues believe that there were no secrets.
Right. Do you think they were just made up by the children?
No, because on the first confessions that registered in 1917 by the local priest, there was no mention to secrets.
Sure.
Only much later.
In the 40s, 41 and 44.
36 is the first mention to secrets.
Okay.
This was after Lucia went to a Jewish, a Jesuit monastery in Spain, where she made a vow of silence, where she may have been indoctrinated with.
I see.
So it's a possibility.
Yeah, that's so much food for thought, so much to look into. I mean, this is exactly what I was hoping for. It's really given me a really clear picture of what happened, and then it's obviously gives me the chance to go and expand and research more, and I hope that the audience takes the same away from it as well. And I'd like to maybe in the future have you back on to go further into this fascinating topic of apparitions.
After you can process everything, because there's so much information, right? So much to think about, and so much to you can build so many other hypotheses and try to connect to other stuff. It's incredible.
Absolutely. Well, Francisco, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on. I really
appreciate
it. And we'll definitely have to do this again in the future.
Hope it was not too much boring.
Not at all. I was just it blew my mind just how many things were just. I was like, well, that would happen in a UFO case. That's been reported in UFO cases. And one thing I would never try and do is take away from the religious aspect of this story. I understand that, but
no, it is important. Remember that one of the important aspects of Fatima, even in Lourdes or any other place, it brings people together.
Yeah,
that place there's something different there, and the fact that people come together and pray for peace, whatever, that's fantastic, and that should be respected and promoted, right? Because it's for the benefit of everyone. But we also have to look into the details without fantasy, maybe in a very critical approach to things, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm speculation. I'm all about healthy speculation. I would never obviously say that's definitely a UFO because it sounds like it might relate in some ways. But I really appreciate it anyway, and really fascinating. So thank you so much. And to everybody who's watching this, thank you guys so much. I hope you found it just as interesting as me, and gives you somewhere to kind of go and follow up on your research if you have such a passion for this. But thanks everyone for watching, and we'll see you again on the next one. Take Take care and goodbye.
Bye-bye.